Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of Grapple Talk. Today, we will be going into a very specific segment known as Bitching with yours truly, Bryson. Bitching with Bryson, where I will sit here in my car, put these white Oakleys on, and I will talk about some of the current problems with the WWE product, or anything in the wrestling world. It doesn't matter. And today, the biggest problem right now in wrestling is what I'm going to talk about, and that is a man known as Joe Roman Reigns and Hawaii. Roman Reigns. Now, before I get into it, let me just tell you about sort of how I have always felt about Roman. Now, obviously, back when they were in the Shield, I liked him because I liked the Shield altogether. You know, Dean, Seth, Roman, they were new, fresh talent coming in at a time where it was just John Cena, Randy Orton, maybe CM Punk and Daniel Bryan here and there. Wasn't really all that fresh. The Shield came in and freshened it up, and it made 3 top stars. And so, yeah, I basically enjoyed them. Then, when they broke up, at first, I was liking Roman, you know, but then he got injured. He had that hernia. And so it kind of killed some of his momentum, because the plan was, you know, he was going to win the Rumble in 2015, which he did. So, I figured, you know, that plan would have been canceled with his hernia injury and the fact that his single character development was put on hold. But no, he came back and he won the Rumble, and it's something that a lot of people didn't like, and it's one of the worst Royal Rumbles in history. And at the time, I was still trying to like Roman, but I was unsure of how it was going to work out with him. But then, of course, you know, he didn't win the title at WrestleMania, so I kind of, you know, got a little easier with it. You know, I liked Roman again, but then, about WrestleMania 32, whenever he won the championship 3 times in 5 months, whenever he's gone through Dean Ambrose, Triple H, Brock Lesnar, the Wyatts, you know, all of them, when he's just plowed through everybody and had been so protected, I kind of just put my foot down, and I just don't enjoy him. I don't enjoy him anymore, and he's kind of killed part of my love for wrestling and part of my love for Raw. And that's how bad it's gotten. And so today I'm going to be going over some points about Roman that are bad, that need to be changed, or need to be getting rid of. Now, before I start, this isn't going to be your typical, oh, he's bad at promos, he's Vince's dream of a top guy, because we've all heard that on the internet. These are specific problems with Roman Reigns that I'm going over. And before I start, I just want to say that this isn't targeting the person known as Joe in Hawaii, because I don't know the man. He's probably a nice person, but I don't know the real person. This is just the character. So, the first point is, he still has Shield assets on him. So when the Shield broke up, obviously the plans were for Roman to be the biggest star out of the 3. So you think, logically, if somebody is going to be your biggest star, you would try to do the best thing you could with him. But no, instead, they made a total character changes to Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins. Dean Ambrose became the Lunatic Fringe. Seth Rollins became the heel, the Architect. He became the Authority's pet. 2 new, fresh characters. Well, what happened with Roman Reigns? Oh, they just, you know, gave him the Shield theme song and just maybe pumped up the bass a little more. They still gave him a vest and put his own little logo on it. He still came out through the crowd for, like, you know, a year and a half before he started coming through the ramp. He still says "Believe That," which is a minor change from "Believe in the Shield." How is anyone supposed to get excited for when the Shield gets back together, and whenever they're all coming through the entranceway, people are going to be like, well, you know, Roman Reigns, he did that for a little while before he went through the ramp. What about when they say, "Believe in the Shield"? Oh, Roman Reigns, he used to always say, "Believe that." What about when they come out in those cool vests? Oh, you know, Roman Reigns, he wore that too, with just his logo. And what about when he comes out to, when all 3 of them come out to, you know, Sierra, Hotel, India, Deco, Rima, Delta, Shield. I probably got that wrong. But when they come out to the Shield song, everyone's gonna be like, oh, well, that's Roman Reigns' song, except it's not a bigger bass. He's just the Shield guy, basically. He has no real character. He's not, the big, I could see him being a heel character, maybe coming out in a suit every week and, just being a dick to people. That would be a good Roman Reigns character. No, instead we just get the Shield guy that gets his popularity from the Shield stuff, and that's all he uses. It's stale and it's boring. And it's not going to be good when the Shield gets back together, because it just shows the lack of creativity with the WWE and with Vince McMahon. I feel like, there's a lot of dumbasses in the creative team, and I feel like the dumber ones are Vince's favorites. And so we got Vince and his favorites to, get focus on Roman Reigns, because, Vince probably thinks they're the best writers, probably. And then he told the ones that actually have talent and actually make up good storylines, oh, just go mess with Dean and Seth, I don't care. We're going to mess with Roman. We're going to make him the big guy by giving him all the Shield stuff, and yeah. And look at Dean and Seth. They're over with the crowd. They're original, they're fresh, people care about them, people invest in them. But with Roman Reigns, he's meant to be the top babyface, and he can't even get half the crowd behind him. John Cena can get half the crowd behind him. Roman Reigns, they boo him out of the building. He makes the show lose ratings, which is something I'll get to later. But to my next point, he always gets the better treatment. So think about whenever he was originally supposed to beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 31. Obviously the fans didn't like that, so the WWE went, okay, we can't ruin this WrestleMania, so we're not going to have Roman win it. We're going to give it to Seth. And they gave it to Seth, and they made us happy. And then Seth Rollins became the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, which meant that Seth Rollins was essentially the main guy. But was that really their number one priority? Because if you go back to the 2015 Raws, first of all, Seth Rollins was booked terribly as champion, losing to freaking Jamie Noble and Joey Mercury, losing to John Cena, losing to Dean Ambrose. He lost so many on television matches. Like, how is a casual fan supposed to want to buy the network or buy the pay-per-view whenever they see the champion losing on free TV? But Roman Reigns went on to have the biggest win streak of his life. I mean, he beat the Big Show or whatever. He beat Bray Wyatt in that big feud that they had. He beat Sheamus for the title. He beat Triple H. While Seth Rollins was just treated like a paper champion. Even the night after WrestleMania 31, I don't know if y'all remember, but the main event of that Raw was a 6-man tag match. It was Seth, Big Show, and Kane versus Roman Reigns, Randy Orton, and Ryback. Roman Reigns won that match, and he pinned, what was it, either Kane or Big Show, I don't remember. But just in one night, after making Seth the champion, they showed that, oh, we're still going with Roman Reigns. And just recently, they put the U.S. title on him. And they put the main title, the Universal title, on Kevin Owens. But Roman Reigns is still the number one priority. So much that he has to be put in the world title match. He's been the Universal title contender since November. And he's faced Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho almost every week on Raw up until now, because now that feud's done. And he's gone through them. Once again with Kevin Owens. How is any casual fan supposed to buy Kevin Owens as the world champion when he loses on free TV every week? It's dumb. I thought when Roman won the U.S. title, he was gonna do like what John Cena did and brought eyes to the title. Whether people loved or hated John Cena, people watched the U.S. Open Challenge every week. With Roman Reigns, it was like that title was just on him to be part of his attire. He hardly defended it. The only times he really defended it was against Jericho and Owens, because we had Jericho versus Reigns in a non-title match last week. Let's put it in a title match. It was still the same freaking match. So it really didn't matter. So yeah, no matter what anyone else gets. You can have, you know, Finn Balor come back and be the world champion. Guess what? Finn Balor's still not going to be the face of Raw. Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, they won't be the face of Raw. Roman Reigns will always be the face of Raw. And he would be the face of SmackDown if he was there. He'd be the face of NXT if he was there. If that was possible. Which I'm sure Vince would try to do. Next point. He doesn't help others look better, but others always make him look better. Others always try to help him get over. Taking it back to 2015 again. During the Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt feud, who was always by Roman Reigns' side? Dean Ambrose. During the feud with Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho, who was always by Roman Reigns' side? Seth Rollins. During AJ Styles' feud, who was always by Roman Reigns' side? The Usos. But, you know, when Dean Ambrose needs help, or when Seth Rollins needs help, or when the Usos even need help, his own freaking family, he's never there. He's never involved in any other storylines. But Dean Ambrose has to take the time to be away from a good mid-card feud, or a way to elevate him as his own single superstar, so he can help Roman and, you know, help him get over in his feud with Bray Wyatt, who is extremely over with the crowd. Or Seth Rollins try to get some fans on his side in his feud with Kevin Owens, who is also very over with the crowd. And the Usos, who, you know, I mean, they got really stale, I'll give them that. But, I mean, the Usos went from having, you know, pretty moderate cheers to being booed out of the building like Roman Reigns when they got into the AJ Styles feud with the club. I mean, anything he touches, he ruins. He ruins anything he touches. Any person that he gets by, they're ruined. Like Seth Rollins, honestly, look, I love Seth. He's probably one of my favorites of all time. He's definitely one of my favorites right now. But in the past few months, he's gotten kind of stale. Because he's just been tag teaming with Roman Reigns every week. He's been powerbombing, you know, with Roman Reigns, powerbombing Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens every week. Which, by the way, that spot is so overdone. I don't want to see the Shield guys touch each other for like another 3 years. And I feel like that's another tactic they use to get Roman Reigns over. Is, again, use something the Shield did. Use the triple, or in this case, the double powerbomb. The spot's overdone. So yeah, anything Roman touches, he ruins, but, you know, Roman can't help anybody. He can't. Next point. He's the biggest problem with Raw. Now, I'm not saying he's the only problem. There's a lot of problems. Stale matches, 3 hours long, bad use of the women, bad storyline writing, you know, because of the bad writers. And I get that the bad writers are the people that made Roman Reigns. They made the Roman Reigns character. But again, that is their number one priority. You know, have you seen the Raw ratings? You know, just last year, they were getting an average of about 3.5 million, you know, 3.6. Maybe on a good episode, it'd be like 4.1. The Raw after WrestleMania for WrestleMania 31 went over 5 million. Which is huge for the WWE. Like 5.3. When Roman Reigns won the title at WrestleMania 32, what did the Raw after WrestleMania get? Like 4.5. That's about 800,000 viewers lost. And ever since then, they've gone into the... They were getting out of the 3 million range and going into the 2.9s and the 2.8s. You know, maybe the first hour would get 3.2, then the last hour would get like 2.89. And now 2 million has kind of become the normal, and 3 million is when an episode is good, or when an episode is big. Okay? Getting 2.6, 2.7 million viewers a week has now become the norm, and that's partially because Roman Reigns has ruined Raw. It's the same thing. Just last night, in the opening segment, Stephanie McMahon comes out and talks and all this other stuff. And then Roman Reigns comes out. And then the club comes out, and then he has to bury the club. Or any other night, you know, there's always an opening segment with him and Kevin Owens. And then later the night, he'll beat Kevin Owens. Or just the other week with Samoa Joe. You know, Samoa Joe's having his contract signing. Roman Reigns comes out and is like, "You stepping into my yard," and then of course, you know, Samoa Joe beats him by distraction, because, you know, Roman Reigns can't just be beaten clean. You know, the only time I think he's ever been beaten clean is against Finn Balor, and that's because he just got off of being suspended for taking Adderall. And then even after that, you know, he got the U.S. title belt and, you know, so on and so forth. So he really got the better treatment. It didn't matter if he was suspended. So yeah, he's really the biggest problem with Raw. Not the only problem. You know, there's a lot of crap on Raw that sucks. But he's really the biggest problem. As somebody who is considered the face of Raw, without a doubt, he should be the biggest problem. Next, he's the wrong character. Now, I know I said he kind of has no character, but, you know, he shouldn't be a face. And he shouldn't try to be the superhero that encourages people to believe that and all that stuff. He needs to be a heel. Kind of like a Batista heel or a Triple H heel, you know? I mean, he's a big, muscular man. How is anyone supposed to feel humbled for a guy who's good looking and who gets all the ladies and who has muscles? But we're supposed to boo AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, and Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens, and everyone else they've put in his way. Roman Reigns is a natural heel. He honestly reminds me a lot of Batman, as in he's just a dark-looking character. Which I get that Batman's a superhero, but, you know, he has an edge to him. But Roman Reigns, they don't give Roman Reigns an edge. They make him say suffering succotash. So, you know, yeah, instead of coming out every week and, you know, playing as a heel, you know, like I said, he should come out in like a suit. And act like he's the richest man alive. But no, he has to pander to kids. He's got to try to pander to adults that all hate him. And he's got to try to use the cheers that he gets from women, because if you hear that crowd, it's obviously women and little kids cheering for him. It's not grown men. Do you hear how highly pitched that crowd is when there's a cheer for Roman Reigns? God forbid. But we're supposed to boo, you know, 190-pound AJ Styles, who, you know, who puts on great matches, and, you know, he's made such a name for himself over the years. And we're supposed to like Roman Reigns. No. And if he's supposed to be face, again, get him out of the Shield stuff. Make him a cool face character. Make him, you know, a badass. You know, like what Goldberg was. And I hate Goldberg. But I can't deny that back in WCW, he was over with the crowd because he was a badass. Whether he was a face or he was a badass. And people liked him. They didn't care that he had bad quality matches. They didn't care he had short matches. He was a badass. Roman Reigns is for little kids. Next. Protected moves. You know, there's a lot of mid-carders, and even up to this point some jobbers, that have kicked out of at least one attitude adjustment. Which, of course, is John Cena's finisher. And I like John Cena. I'm not trying to bash on him. I have, you know, certain opinions on his booking, but overall I do like John Cena. But, you know, at least, even if I hated him, I can admit that when John Cena wrestles somebody, when he hits the attitude adjustment, most of the time, they kick out at two, his opponent. You know, whether it had been Sami Zayn, Dean Ambrose, Dolph Ziggler, CM Punk, Seth Rollins. You know, a lot of people have kicked out of the attitude adjustment. But how many... Have you seen how many people just go out after one spear? AJ Styles has. Dean Ambrose has. Triple H has, I think. Bray Wyatt has. You know, it's almost... You know, he can never set up for the spear and go for it in the middle of a match because Vince wants it to be the end of the match. He thinks a spear from Roman Reigns is like an atomic bomb. And it will just kill you. I mean... Again, John Cena, you know, I've seen people kick out of 2 attitude adjustments. I mean, recently with AJ Styles. You know, I think he kicked out of 2 attitude adjustments in the Royal Rumble match, which eventually he got pinned. But still, at least when Cena beats somebody, the other person looks like they can take a beating. But in AJ Styles' match with Roman Reigns, he took like 1 spear from him, and that was it. That was it. Roman Reigns dominated AJ Styles, just like he dominated Dean Ambrose and took 1 spear out with him. Speaking of Dean Ambrose, the time at Fastlane 2016, Roman Reigns versus Dean Ambrose versus Brock Lesnar. At the end of the match, Dean Ambrose is beating Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar constantly with chairs, back and forth. One to Roman, one to Brock, one to Roman, one to Brock. All of a sudden, Roman Reigns gets up and spears him 1, 2, 3. It's a very protected finisher, and the spear is not an original move. Goldberg has used it, Edge has used it, Christian has used it, even Bo Dallas has used it in NXT. Charlotte uses it, Rhino uses it. But when Roman Reigns does it, you know, it's a completely different spear. It's like Hulk Hogan when he did the leg drop. It's like, you know, Hitler when he dropped the atomic bomb on the Jews. It's like that. That's what the spear is like. And not just the spear. You know, the Superman punch, you know, he always has to counter something into the Superman punch. You know, he uses the same clotheslines in the corner. You know, he uses the same punches. And I don't think Roman, honestly, I don't think he's a bad wrestler. He's a very mediocre wrestler in my opinion. But he uses a lot of the same stuff. And they're very protected moves. So yeah, his moves are very protected. Next point, it's a different era. You know, back in the day, you know, Hulk Hogan was the top guy because of his muscles and of his look. So was the Ultimate Warrior, so was Randy Savage, even though Randy Savage was actually good. But at that time, the fans had no internet to really realize that Vince was using them for their looks. And even if they did, it was sort of the birth of... It wasn't the birth of wrestling, but it was the birth of sports entertainment, of these characters, of these Superman heroes. And the fans didn't care. They cheered. Hulk Hogan was so popularly over. And then, you know, in the Attitude Era, you know, Steve Austin and The Rock and Triple H, they were the top guys. And they were a lot cooler, you know, in that era. You know, the Attitude Era had a more of a cooler vibe than, of course, the old generation era. But they were still, you know, jacked, muscled guys. But the fans didn't care. And all three of those guys were talented. And then even in John Cena, which, you know, yeah, John Cena's had his stale moments. But, you know, there was a time where he was over, you know, even as a world champion. I think, honestly, the fans started turning on him when he became when it was turned to the PG era. Because then he became sort of the Superman hero. He started wearing the colorful shirts. If you look back in the 2005, 2007 era, you know, when he was a world champion, but he was really like the Chain Gang leader, I guess you could say, because he wasn't really the doctor of thugonomics anymore. He was still a cool character, and he was still over with the fans, and he was still a face. Roman Reigns, he resembles everything that wrestling was, not what wrestling currently is. You know, the good looks, the long hair, the tattoos, the muscles, the nice pigment. You know, that's what Vince sees in him. And it's all the wrong things he's looking at in Roman. And it's not the right person he should be looking at. Seth Rollins represents everything current wrestling is. I mean, he's not big, but he's not very small. He's like 215 pounds. You know, he's a good-looking dude. And he has that high-flying style that current wrestling is, that the WWE style is slowly transforming to. Roman Reigns doesn't have any of that. So he would have been perfect for the 80s, but it's not his era. It's not. And for my last point, he was rushed to the top too soon. So even if Roman Reigns has the same character he has now, there were other ways to go about him main eventing WrestleMania. He shouldn't have won the 2015 Royal Rumble. He probably could have won the 2016 one. He could have main evented WrestleMania 32. Maybe it would have been better. You know, he needed, you know, that hernia surgery. Again, it killed, you know, any momentum he had as a single star. But the WWE and Vince McMahon didn't care, and they still pushed him to the Royal Rumble. They had him beat Daniel Bryan. They almost had him beat Brock Lesnar. They had him beat Bray Wyatt. They had him beat Sheamus, Triple H, Styles, Owens, Jericho. You know, he's gone through everybody. There are other ways they could have gone about this specific Roman Reigns character. You know, if they didn't want to change him heel, if they didn't want to make him a cool character, if they didn't want to take the shield stuff off of him, then so be it. But he can't be pushed the way he's being pushed. Okay? By now, you know, he could maybe be a world champion at least one time, maybe a United States champion twice, you know, maybe have a heel turn at one point. But it shouldn't have been the way it has been now. He's been booked like more than Superman, more than John Cena. He's booked like God. Like, not a God, God, the Lord and Savior, the man who is invincible. Because he can barely lose. He can barely lose. Every week, it's the same thing with him. He almost always wins. The only way he can lose is by distraction, or if he gets suspended. You know? So, that's about it. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoy this. I don't know how often I'm going to do this segment. It's probably not going to be weekly, but I'll probably do it maybe once a month, more than likely, maybe more than that. Stay tuned. Me and Bradshaw will be giving you our review of the Elimination Chamber. And, yeah, thank you guys.